All right, so getting into the help manual, or the manual, SynthEdit help. So it's one of the classic Windows help manuals. I'm not sure how it looks on the Mac, or actually you can't even load SynthEdit on the Mac. You can create modules for Mac. However, you can't load SynthEdit on Mac. I don't use any of these links. It's been a while since I first looked at the manual with fresh eyes. Didn't dig around here. I don't even know where they go. I don't want to open anything. I dig around here. This is where I'm at. Okay, so these reference here. Okay. So what's new? This is all the new stuff. You can look at it later. Getting started. Getting started with SynthEdit. This is a whole bunch of interesting information. This pretty much gives you the breakdown. If you're at this point in watching my video, it's likely you already know what's going on. So I'm not going to be reading everything. Installing SynthEdit, some walkthrough, configuring SynthEdit. Yeah, something you're going to have to learn for yourself, as ASIO is a little difficult to use. I personally use FL Studio ASIO, which allows the audio drivers to run. However, SynthEdit does not like to play well with FL Studio ASIO sometimes. There's a little trick to it. You have to make sure that you have things properly set up in FL Studio, and then you can open SynthEdit. If you try to open SynthEdit and your ASIO, FL Studio ASIO drivers in a certain configuration, SynthEdit will just crash. So, word of warning. Playing the demo file. So there is a demo file, which I won't be looking at in this section right now. Super important here is I want to skip working with SynthEdit and jump right into tutorials and reference. This is one of the first things I did when I started in SynthEdit. So this tutorial guide is super helpful. It's probably also super old. And there is backup files in here, so you can get in here and follow along here. Perhaps I could follow along with this one of these times. I got 4 tutorials: the basics, improving the basic synthesizer, adding a control panel, low frequency oscillator. So yeah, these are the core pretty much for a beginner. I definitely recommend going through this tutorial, which is in the help and under tutorials and reference, and it's a special little book here that kind of pops out its own little system guy here. Alright, so continuing along through the manual, working with SynthEdit. This is why I wanted to look at the manual, so it'll keep me on task, kind of drive a bit here. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I like to keep my videos into an hour. So I'm at 15 minutes, which is not bad. Got lots of time, 45 minutes to go. Will I cover the whole manual? Unlikely. Actually, more than likely. So we'll just get right into it. Objects. So there is no page for that. Containers. So a container is a special type of module that can contain other SynthEdit modules, like a folder. To see all modules and patch cords inside a container, open its structure view. Any connections into and out of the container are handled by an IO mod module. SynthEdit will automatically add an IO mod module when a container is created. Open the container panel view to see just the user controls for the container, or display the controls on the module itself by enabling the container's control on module property. Using containers will not generally harm efficiency. Audio doesn't actually travel through the IO module, but goes directly to the correct destination. Containers are marked with a small box icon that also shows if the container structure view and panel views are locked for editing. So that's depreciated, I do believe, from 1.1 to 1.3. Yeah, so that little box, I guess that'd be here. Ooh, I never knew about that. But there is a new view, which I'm just going to quickly jump into, and I want to see if that's still the case on the new view. No, because there is no. It's still being developed, so. But the old view, it should, yeah. Okay, so let's unconfigure that. So I double click to get into there. However, back to the manual. Containers serve two purposes, allowing the grouping of synths functions into easy to manage groups of modules. For example, the filter and LFO sections of a synth. Containers control SynthEdit's polyphonic behavior. Oh, need a second. I'm actually gonna grab some water. How now, brown cow? Note, if you intend to use several independent synths in a project, each one should be inside its own container. Inputs, variable, depends on the internal structure of the module. Outputs, variable, depends on the internal structure of the module. Parameters, control on parent, control on modules, ignore program changes, polyphony, skin. So, containers are like a folder. They contain everything, and they are kind of like Inception. They can be indefinitely deep. I don't even know if that's a word. Indefinitely, whatever. So yeah, containers are the box for stuff. Modules. The basis of everything in SynthEdit is the module. A module can create or process audio or MIDI data, or it may be a control. It may be a control, such as a slider or knob, a complete synthesizer, or a VST plugin. SynthEdit comes with many standard modules. Or you can also add custom modules made by other SynthEdit users. The colored text on each module represents a plug or connection. That connection to other modules using patch cords. So we got a little picture here of a module. This is specifically a control module, so it's not a container. Controls are generally used in the, I can't think of the word. What's it called? No, I can't think of the word. Controls are usually created by containers, and they have a whole bunch of small pieces that create a control. This is a special kind of module that is a control itself. There is no inside of it, but it does control stuff. Signals always enter a module through the plugs on the left and exit via the ones on the right. So I'm not 100% sure if that's still accurate. Let's look at that specific control module, which is under controls here, and that's the slider. So referencing again, signals always enter a module through the plugs on the left. So yeah, it would come in here and exit via the ones on the right. Yeah, so that's still current. There was a time, I believe, when pins were flipped the other way. Patch cords. Patch cords are used to connect modules together using plugs. So I got a picture of a couple different modules. You have the slider module and the oscillator module and the list module. And unlike the current version, there's no pots. I call them pots. These are the small bots, I guess, so to speak, and they connect things together. Previously in 1.1.3, they were just lines. You just drew from line to line. Patch cords are color-coded depending on their signal type. Note, SynthEdit will not allow you to connect patch cords to plugs with a different signal type. That isn't 100% accurate anymore. We'll talk about that more later. However, I will mention that in the structure view, you can connect different things. There's no conversion modules needed for most conversions. However, in the GUI or the display view for GUI modules, you do still need to convert. Moving forward, plugs. The colored text on each module represents a plug that can be used to connect to other modules using patch cords. A plug allows some parameters of the module to be changed using the output of another module, such as a control. Hovering the mouse over a plug will display the description of the parameter in a tooltip. Inputs are always located on the left of a module and outputs always on the right. Plugs are color-coded depending on their signal type. Didn't we just talk about that? Plugs. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's what they're called. I call them pots. However, I guess I'm going to start calling them plugs. Going forward, pots are now plugs. Note SynthEdit will not allow you to connect two plugs of the same type, input or output. Attempting to do so will issue an error message. Note SynthEdit will not allow you to connect patch cords to plugs of different signal types. Example, control voltage to list entry or text to MIDI. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So, however, there are some that will automatically convert in the structure view, in the DSP level. As said before, on the GUI level, you still need converters. Prefabs. A prefab is a SynthEdit file that can be inserted into a project like any other module. Prefabs are simply a container with other modules inside, already connected up to perform a specific function, such as act as a delay unit or FM synth. Such as act as a delay unit or FM synth. I can't wrap my brain around that grammar. SynthEdit comes with some pre-built synthesizers and effect prefabs ready to use. The idea to connect these up the same as you would instruments in the real world. For instance, the following patch uses a polysynth prefab, a keyboard module, and a sound out module. So prefabs are files. Community shares them. They are most times standard modules. Can I pop up? No, I don't know what's going on. That. Just bear with me here. Am I popping? I don't know what's going on. I gotta look at my... Yeah, no, that's not working. I don't know why it doesn't work. Do I really have to do that every time? Is that... Whatever. So yeah, prefabs, they are files that get shared. Most times they are standard modules. There are prefabs with third-party modules or modules built by other SynthEdit users using C++ and the SynthEdit SDK. So when you have a prefab that contains a third-party module or modules created by someone else or modules that aren't part of the stock or vanilla lineup of modules, you have to go get them. And SynthEdit will warn you that they're missing. Views. So this is pretty important here. And I need a second. I'm going to see if I can hide my mask again. I'm just experimenting here with this. That work? Yeah, okay, I'm gone. Alright. Panel view. Panel view shows only a container's controls without the patch cords or other modules that have no controls, such as their oscillator module. The panel view allow you to arrange the controls of your synth just like a real synthesizer control panel. Missing an S there. So we have here a picture of an envelope. This is the VST or AU, the audio unit. This is the GUI. So this would pieces that make up a GUI are in the structure view, and they kind of you have to transition between the structure view and the GUI view, which I can represent here. We'll hop back in here, and I'll just right click and go panel edit, and this is our empty panel. So everything that's inside here is being displayed here. Hop in here, and we'll get rid of this. And as I said before, the slider. Now, if we go into, I can even just right click right from here and go panel edit. We have the slider in the GUI. And as we see, it was mentioning there are no wires or patches. Just wanted to demonstrate that. A panel automatically displays any controls that are in the container structure. Adding a control to a container structure automatically adds it to the container's panel view. Likewise, deleting a control from a panel will also delete it from the structure. Only modules that have a control or display can be inserted from the panel view. Never knew that. I think what it's saying there is, say if I was in panel view and I threw another slider in here, bam. But things that don't have any sort of visual appearance on the GUI would be something like the float function. And yeah, so I don't know if that even Yeah, it did. So you can, however, probably not recommended. I've never done that. Panels use a skin that demonstrates the lookup objects on the panel, including the background, panel groups, and controls. To open Control Panels view, right-click on the container, select Panel Edit from the menu. So yes, to get to the panel menu, you have to actually right-click. If I right-click on the open, this is the master container, the main. If I right-click here and go Panel Edit, I don't believe it's going to give me, that container specifically. I actually have to physically. I have to digitally click the actual container and right-click Panel Edit, and then it'll give me this container's GUI. Alternatively, we can hop into by double-clicking or right-clicking and saying Structure, and right-clicking here inside the structure, empty space, going Panel Edit, and we'll see the same thing. So this is the GUI or the faceplate of our synth or effect. Arranging controls on a panel. You arrange the controls on a panel by selecting them and dragging them into the required position on the panel with the mouse. For fine adjustments, use the arrow keys to nudge the selection in 1 pixel steps. Use the Snap to Grid option to make lining up controls easier. So we got a picture here of some awesome animation moving that release. Note, you cannot rearrange controls on a panel if the container views are locked. So yeah, we're going to right click on the container called Quick Synth and Panel Edit. We got our 2 sliders. In the past, there were some modules that didn't automatically snap the grid. I can't remember which ones, but it was a headache. Now we have automatic snap the grid. Almost all modules snap the grid, which is a heaven sent. Oh, and also this never used to snap the grid. So this background canvas piece, I don't know if the manual is going to go into it, but this is what the size of the VST or audio plugin. I'm going to stop saying VST and audio unit, and we're just going to start saying audio plugin. So yeah, this is the size. So if I went like this and, if this slider was halfway out, when the plugin pops out or is loaded in the DAW, you're only going to get this little chunk. And I mentioned this now snaps to grid, which is, again, a blessing because it never used to. If we go into edit and we go snap to grid, actually I didn't even cover that, so we can cover that now. It's really like very fluid. It's snapping per pixel, which makes it incredibly difficult to get things lining up. As well, everything else is very fluid now. So it can make, something like that. If I'm trying to put these exactly beside each other, I might be off by a pixel here, and then I got to get in here and move it up a pixel, and then it's very tedious. But with the snap to grid, everything is much more clunky, but I mean, it's so much easier to get things lined up. As well, I did want to mention, no, we probably lost it, can't remember. So I do want to look at this, the snap to grid we just covered. Preferences, perhaps I'll cover that at the end of the video. Probably coming up on about 30 minutes. Back to the manual. So yeah, arranging controls on a panel. Back in the panel view. So you can nudge using the arrow keys, and it moves per pixel, so very fluid. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I was going to say. The grid, I do believe, is in 4 pixel increments. And then some 2 makes 8. I do believe. It could be 8, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 pixel increments. And it is a bit of a headache to get things to sit properly, especially when it starts to designing controls. A lot of times, the sizing of raster graphics or the vector graphics change the the dimensions of the bounding box, and then when you put things together, you have things that are sitting crooked, and it's best to kind of get a workflow going. I find get your GUI in, and then do your DSP and save all your polishing for GUI later. That's just my take. Back to the manual, creating panel groups. Panel group. This is something that's a little depreciated, however, is still relevant and still functional. A graphic module that allows you to organize controls on the panel into functional groups. This module simply adds a graphic border to the panel. This group can be resized to fit around the controls using a sizing handle. Rename the panel group using its title property. So here we have a panel group. This is a module itself. I do believe it is under controls. Maybe subcontrols. And I can't see through my chat box. It's time to get rid of the chat box. Doesn't seem like anybody's visiting any today anyway. I'll throw it back up in a bit. Panel group, panel group. Need a search box for modules. It's been such a long time. Here it is. Okay, so I'm not going to drop that like that. I like to keep things organized a bit. Okay, lost. So additionally, from the panel window, you can right click and go to structure. So they kind of loop back around. I will mention window management is a bit of a headache in SynthEdit. Something I'll look at later, I suppose. For now, let's just look at this panel group. So here's the structure for our top level container. And here is the panel, or the GUI for that. So this is DSP, that's GUI, and here is the main piece. See right now, like, my windows just got buried, and there's no hotkeys to switch between them. You're stuck with resizing constantly and moving things around and clicking around. So keep that in mind. In comes the panel group. So not much going on in here, I don't think. I think you can actually fiddle with it in here. However, that doesn't change anything over here. So I'm just going to make this a bit bigger, grab these guys from down, grab this group, and bring this up. And I'm going to size it around. So this is the point where I'd like to talk about the right-click option, arrange. And I'll move the front, move the back. So it's kind of like the old, or some still do it, graphic design software where all you get is a two-layer sort of front or back. So if see, now we're on top of the sliders, and if I go right click, I gotta right click, be sure to right click the bar, otherwise if I click on an empty space, I don't believe I'm getting anything. No, I am. Okay, so I prefer to have the right click, move things, because when you click an empty space, okay, well, sometimes it doesn't work, I don't know. Which I prefer to be highlighted on the bar before I do any right clicking or moving or copying or pasting. So yeah, front to back. So if I grab a slider and I can throw this slider, arrange, move to the back, now I have one slider in front, one slider in the back, and the group in between. So there is multiple Z levels, I suppose, but it's all just like a deck of cards. So yeah, that's the panel group. And I can rename it by changing the text up here. This is the parameters window, parameters area. This is where you do all your sort of work stuff. So we're going to call this sliders. Back to the manual. For instance, you may have several oscillators or envelope generators in your synth that have identical sets of controls. Using the panel groups helps you to organize them. So we got a picture of a VCO, which is a voltage controlled oscillator. 1 envelope ADSR, voltage control oscillator. 2 envelope ADSR. So they're pretty much the same thing. So it's you want to differentiate them by using the panel group. There is other ways of creating GUI without using the panel group that are a little bit more creative and neater. This module is only available for insertion when in panel view, which is not true. However, it's only really editable there. Changing a panel skin. Selecting a skin. Panels use a skin that determines the graphical look of the panel and the controls on it. Each panel uses a different skin if required. Panels use the SynthEdit's default skin by default. So here we have a picture of a nice, some fancy sliders, and all the buttons are different. But in the background here, we got a sort of a gradient line fade. Okay, I see what's going on here. So this is be like a new one, then this is the original. Yeah, okay. To change a panel skin, right-click on the panel and select Skin from the menu. Select the skin from the list of installed skins. Note: using too many different skins in a project could impact your system's performance depending on the complexity of the skin and the available video memory of your PC in your PC. So I do believe that's a little bit amortized, a little bit depreciated, as modern computers are quite fast, and these are rasters. Skins use raster. Let's see if I can get my mug back up here. I don't know why I get a beep. So yeah, so skins are mostly raster. Yeah, I don't know why it's talking about video memory. Like I said, most modern computers have quite a decent amount to handle rasters. There's no giant couple gigabyte files happening here. I mean, these are probably few kilobytes. But indeed, everything is a raster. This background image is a raster inside of the skins folder. These guys are different rasters. I do believe this is also a raster. This is also inside the skins folder. Each piece of it, this is kind of like left and up and down, so, and corners. So that's the raster parts of that create this panel group. And now, if we right click, we can look at the skins menu. There is a few different ones here. I have a bunch of mine that are mostly not failed projects, but back burner projects. Mixed Candy did make it out. However, I'm not going to be switching to any of these. I will be switching to, instead, we'll check out the PD303. So this is a demonstration of changing skins. So unfortunately, it does look a little funny because the skin was originally developed to look like that. And things were expected to be in certain places. And because this background image, I'm going to get rid of this panel group here. Because this background image is already all set up, to be kind of the panel group, that's how it was supposed to look. So, yeah. Also, additionally, we have some other skins, a random skin, and I think a CPD. No, that's something of mine, Profit Black. So now we can see a little bit more stylish, I suppose you could say. Let's bring back in that panel group. I don't believe it changes any. It looks a little grayer, I suppose. From gray to white. Gray to white, so default. Yeah. Looks like we got a little bit of chunkiness happening. Not sure what happened there. No, it doesn't want to refresh either. I'm gonna probably have to refresh it manually. Yeah, okay, so it just had to reload the graphics. It was kind of hanging on to the previous skin set, so if I jump back into Profit, I'll probably see more graphical errors. Yeah. And it's just because of the loading, which is fine. Like if I wanted to fix these, just close that and reload it, and they should look nice and smooth now. Yeah. So that's skins. All right, locking a panel's layout. Lock view. So yeah, locked is a little different now. It's not something I really use a lot. I never really did in the past either. And I always found it kind of annoying when I'd look at a prevab and a lot of things were locked. However, I'm going to cover it anyway because I am a completionist, sort of. I'm just going to check out my time. 40 minutes. So it doesn't look like I'm going to make it through the manual. However, maybe next weekend at least we'll cover most of the basics. I guess I can come back in for another hour just to cover the manual. Make a part 2 here. I have a bit of time on my hands. I do have stuff to do though. Lock view. Locks the container structure and panel views to prevent unwanted changes from being accidentally made to the structure of a container. Oh, I need to check my mic. Mic's fine. Or its panel layout. When locked, the controls, modules, or patch cords within the container cannot be selected, edited, and controls on its panel are unable to be edited or rearranged. Panel controls are still active and can be adjusted. When a container is unlocked, its container icon shows container icon shows as an open box. When a container is locked, the icon changes to a dark open box. Note, you cannot open the structure views of containers in a locked view. Really? To lock or unlock a container, with the container panel or structure view active, click Edit Lock Module. Alternatively, with the container panel or structure view active, click the Lock View Toolbar button. I don't know if we still have that. Doesn't look like it. I guess we got this little guy though. Yeah. Oops. Alright, and a little picture here of SynthEdit 1.1 to 3 or 2. 1. I think it was just 1.1 that looked like that. After 2, we started to get our new view. Creating complex panels. I need a second. Creating complex panels. Speech impediment. A panel view normally only show the controls within a container. Note the controls of any child containers within it. Or, bugger, not. A panel view would normally only show, it's that S, it's missing an S. A panel view normally only shows the controls within a container, not the controls of any child containers within it. When building complex synths, you will often use containers to separate the functional components of a synth into easy-to-manage blocks, like a filter section, envelope generator, or oscillator sections. You might also create prefabs for objects such as the envelope generator that may be used several times within a synth structure. Each container has its own panel, but what happens when we want to put all the controls together in one place? SynthEdit allows you to add container panels to its parent panel. SynthEdit allows you to add a containers panel to its parents panel by setting the controls on parent property. By setting this property on a container, its panel is displayed on the panel of its parent container as a single grouped object. Using the parent's panel current skin, individual controls can be adjusted but not rearranged from the parent panel. Okay, let's get into that a little bit here. So what it's saying is that, say if I copy this quick synth here, let's just copy this, and then we go inside of the quick synth. Okay, now if I paste the quick synth, right? Now I got this quick synth, and I got 2 of them. So they're exactly the same, right? Panel edit, but I don't see, I got the first one. I got, this stuff, but I don't see this stuff. So in order to see this stuff, because it's the exact same thing, I need to turn on controls on parent. And voila, we now have both. Now you see, because this is a child container, I can't move any of this stuff inside around. I mean, I can move the controls and change some of the parameters, but I can't move them individually like I can the parent, whereas the parent things are free to be moved around. If I wanted to change the GUI a little bit for the child container, I can go inside of this one, and I'm not going to go inside, but I'm rather going to right click on the outside and we're going to go parent panel edit. So just to differentiate here, I'm going to turn these sliders into knobs. And we'll do that by clicking the slider, and up here, this is a control type module, keep in mind. And we have appearance, and we're going to go from vertical slider to knob. So now we have 2 knobs. As you'll notice, they did not update over here. This is just a shortcoming of SynthEdit's redraw. So I'm going to, from the top, I'm going to go into this. I don't want to go that way. I'm going to go into this one, which is the parent, and we're going to right click panel edit. Now we have the knobs, right? But I can't move them. Like I can't move them individually because it's a child. And the only way to see that is with controls on parent. Turn it off. Spare, turn it on, right? Okay, so now I'm going to right click. We'll call this second synth, or son of quick synth, yeah, whatever. And we're going to go in here and right click and panel edit. Now, when I move these guys around, they're going to react over here. Of course, it's a little bit of drawing error, which is fine. That's not going to make it to the final. And yeah, so that's how that works. That was that big long-winded tongue twister explanation. Now back into the manual. Displaying a VST's weight. SynthEdit allows, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've covered that. That's the tongue twister stuff. Displaying a VST plugins on a panel. So I'm going to stop right there and mention that VST 64-bit cannot be imported into SynthEdit. This is a bit amortized, a bit depreciated. A VST, in the past, you used to be able to bring in VSTs. For example, I don't know how big my VST list is in here. We do have a small, in the module section, VST plugins. Okay, so I got this massive list, yeah. So you can just grab and throw a VST in here. However, these are all only 32-bit. The 64-bit version of SynthEdit will not load 64-bit VST plugins. Additionally, using VST plugins inside of your SynthEdit synth or effect is pretty much frowned upon. I mean, it's a good idea to, build your own little synth and then you can bring it in as pieces. However, this opens the door for copyright problems. This opens the door for, practically just stealing someone else's synth. I do believe this is why this is getting depreciated. Anyway, so displaying a VST panels on this panel. Currently, VST plugins do not have the controls on parent property. To display the control panel of a VST plugin on your panel, you need to use a subpanel module. This module allows you to add a window on a panel that displays all or part of the VST's plugin panel. So yeah, I'm not going to really get into that at all because it's not something I use and it's just a dirty shortcut. I mean, it's a good idea for, say you have a visualizer, a spectrum visualizer and stuff like that. You can bring them in and test things out. However, they have to be 32-bit and yeah. There's already third-party modules that will do that. There's tools already. There's modules that do that. I don't really see the purpose of moving forward with, the inception of bringing VST plugins into the VST plugin development section. Note, the subpanel module can only display panels of containers or VST plugins that are children of the container you are adding the subpanel to. And then there's a show me icon here. Click the icon to the right to save a SynthEdit project with an example of the Clonplex panel to your hard disk. And I need to check my microphone again. Okay, I'm good. How am I doing for time? 51 minutes, less 10 minutes. We'll finish this section at least. So properties view. The properties view, I do believe that's this side over here. So this is properties. What's manual? Okay. The properties view shows the properties of an object such as a module or container. So this is the 1.1 layout here. You actually used to have to right click things and click properties and then it would show this stuff. But now it's always right there. So it does say to open modules property view, right click on the module, select properties from the menu. Structure view. This is pretty much the bread and butter of SynthEdit, the raw core, which is the DSP section. To see the contents of a container, you open its structure view. This opens a new window showing all of the modules and patch cords that make up the container. This is the view that you will work in when you are designing your synth. Structure views always use the default skin. So I've got a picture here of a container. It says envelope generator or EG, VCF, voltage control filter 3. And if we look inside of it, we get the structure view. So in this is, you can see the controls and an ADSR. So envelope. To open a container structure, to right-click on the container, select Structure from the menu. Alternatively, double-click on the container's title bar. So yeah, that's pretty much something I covered when going over UI. Muting a module in the structure. Mute a module. You can temporarily disable or mute a module, container, or VST plugin to prevent it from playing or utilizing CPU usage in large projects. When an object is muted, it displays the mute icon, and it shows a picture of a little cancel button, a little cancel symbol. To mute or unmute a module, right-click on the module, select Mute to toggle mute status. Note, you cannot mute or unmute an object in the locked view. I never knew that either. Alright, so jumping back into SynthEdit here, I do believe that it is mentioning it's no longer a cancel symbol, it's a big M. So now it's muted, it's not active at all, it's not doing anything. And the X will close or delete the synth. So I like to stay away from using these buttons because of that X, because there's no like, are you sure? And then imagine I was going like, oh yeah, I'm going to lock it, and then I accidentally deleted it. And then, oh, the undo doesn't work. Oh no. And then it's like, oh my God. Yeah. So I prefer to stay away from these little buttons. Right click, lock. And then I don't think there's a mute. Is there a mute under more? Yeah, there's all the awesome stuff under more, but there's no mute. Yeah, I guess that is the only way to mute, eh? That's pretty risky. Either way, save often, test often, build often, save often, test often, build often. That's the cycle for SynthEdit. Trust me, save often, test often will keep your hair on your head from going gray and losing sleep. I've had so many instances of rage quit with SynthEdit. Lock view. Haven't we already covered this? Locking the panels layout. Okay, so apparently we're covering it again. Lock view locks the container structure in panel views to prevent unwanted changes from accidentally being made to the structure of a container or its panel layout. Yeah, we've already covered this. Did I accidentally bounce back or something? That's the exact same page. Okay, so we've already covered locked. If you want to go through locked again, you can rewind the video and yeah. Okay, the interface. How am I doing for time? I said I think I'd finish this section and then call it here. So, yes, next time on SynthEdit documentation, we will continue with the manual. I'm going to throw out my bumper here. If I can find the right button. That's the wrong button. That's the wrong button. That's the right button. Yeah. So until next time, I will be back today to continue with the manual for another hour. That's the best I can do. Yes.